Hello, this is Dale. I'm joined by Mike, and we're happy to see you today. Hello, Mike.
Hey Dale, what's going on?
Well, we've got all kinds of news for you, and it ranges everywhere from Taco Bell to the Grants Pass City Council. So I'm going to start off with this tough news from Taco Bell. So I'm over there today, and I'm getting a couple of these crunchy tacos, and the lady says, "I said, I'd like some extra tomatoes in there." She says, "You'd like some extra uh, poco de papagayo?"
Yes, because that's what it is.
I think that she meant pico de gallo. Pico de
Yes.
gallo is a Mexican phrase for a kind of a salsa. Pico de gallo means blah blah, big deal. I know this, but that means
Hey, Spanish is not her second language. You
she's
be
working at
nice.
Taco Bell, where we can get pseudo
Yeah.
Mexican food. It's
Yes.
called parrot's beak. No, rooster's beak, because you can kind of pull the stuff out and put it on your taco. Anyway, what she said was poco de papagayo, which means a little bit of parrot. Would you like a little bit of parrot on
No,
your tacos?
no thanks. I'm trying to cut down.
I said, is this some kind of euphemism for your chicken?
Yes.
Poco de
I've seen
papagayo.
I've seen too many cute parrot videos lately. I don't want to be eating parrot. Thank you.
I don't want to be parroting any phrases. It reminds me in Mr. Barco that we had in Spanish class back in the 1900s, where most of us went to high school, and he repeated a phrase about Hernan Cortez, who had come into Mexico. Yeah, blah blah, Dale. But he'd come into Mexico, and he'd said to his men, "Look, we're going to either defeat this entire continent, or we're not. None of us are going to go home." So he sank all of the ships except for one. He echó a pique todos los barcos excepto uno. He put a hole in every ship but one. He said, "Now, if you want to go back to Spain, go ahead and get on that ship." Surprisingly, nobody wanted to get on it. So his name was Mr. Barco, and so we always referred to him as echó a pique todos los barcos. See, echó a pique means make a hole, which he did on a regular basis in our class. So we called him echó a pique. Anyway, speaking of making sort of a hole of yourself, the Graz City Council is now doing this. It's unbelievable. So, Mike, bring
Yes.
us up to speed first on this laconic, on this lazy, on this wimpy logo controversy that's cost us tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars. We want to thank Tony Webb for spending the $250. It wasn't Rob Pell, it was Tony Webb, spent $2.50 to come up with a logo that's every bit as good as what we've just spent tens of thousands of dollars on. Go ahead, and Mike,
Yes, and and
list
and here
the
before
logo.
I do that, we
Yes.
also because of the fantastic photographs and video that exists on grantspassweather.com, we noticed that their logo too was very, very similar to the
It does
two
look
of
like it's
these
been ripped off
logos.
from Grants Pass Weather. Go ahead, Mike. Let's see that. This is
Yes,
great.
yes. Here's all three of them side by side. You have and guess which one cost $2.50, and guess which one cost that times 1,000 or 100,000, or yes, 100,000.
So the one on
Wow.
the one on the right, that comes from Grants Pass Weather. Does that look a little bit similar to the one in the middle? Look, you can even see the bridge in the middle.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? It may even be the exact same graphic that
Now, John
they've
Bowen,
overlaid.
you had the city pay you a lot of money. Did you just rip off Grants Pass Weather? I mean, it says it's the
Yeah,
climate, but doesn't it look like? Look at the center one and the right one. Now, my
yeah.
gosh, Don't they look just a little bit similar? Now, on the
Well,
left,
what is this? What is this thing that nobody has any originality here? All three of these. Now, I understand why Tony did the her Grants Pass logo like
Tony
that,
Webb,
because she
thank
thought,
you very
well, listen,
much. Yeah.
I'm going to show them how, give you exactly the same logo or very similar to the same logo for $2.50. Well, the GrantsPassWeather.com. What is it with this? Oh, we have to have the sun, the mountains, the river, and the bridge in there. Give us all those.
I think what people don't understand is that these logos, well, the one in the middle in particular, is showing the sun setting on the Grants Pass Empire of the city council. That's not rising, that's setting, buddy, because it's just the end of their credibility. I thought it couldn't get any lower with the idea of spending over $100,000 each for a bus stop where you sit your bottom down and you wait for the bus. Okay, and you got to spend a lot of money on people waiting for a bus, but now they come out with this weak, wimpy excuse, and the mayor says that it says more about us than I ever imagined. You know what, Mayor? Yes, it does. It definitely does. It says more about you and the city councilors than I ever thought was possible. Look at that weak-willed thing. That's just stupid.
I don't know. I just think that it just lacks imagination. That's all. But so are some of the rest of the solutions that they're coming up with. I had wondered, because it affects me directly, whether or not they were going to let this water and sewer tax thing that they're using for jail funding
Let's see
go
you again,
away.
Mike. Come on back on the screen, would you, Mike? See your shining face. One reason it affects Mike directly is because he's got the bridge right behind him. But go ahead, buddy.
Yes, yeah, that's why. Because I have a green screen thing behind me with some picture that I found.
Okay, it affects you.
That's why it affects me.
This is going into the next
doesn't
thing.
Matter.
It's going into the next
bottom
thing.
line.
Yes.
The bottom line is that they're going to propose continuing that, at least for another year here. So, thank God for that, because
so they can back up the jail, right? So they can back up the jail. So here's what's been happening at other meetings. SOS meeting last Tuesday, okay? SOS, and we've got Jay Meredith there, who is the city's finance director, Grants Pass City Finance Director, and he is also president of SOS. And so, Mike, just a little quick pop quiz here and see if anybody in our audience knows this. What happens when two county commissioners come together in a quorum and discuss county business, and they don't tell anybody that they're there, they don't keep any minutes, they don't notify anybody? Is that legal or illegal?
I'm going to say illegal.
Now,
Dale.
Now, how do we know that for sure? We know that for sure, just in case there's anybody out there, legal scholars or maybe county commissioners, that will say, well, I'm not quite sure. Keith Eck has said 3 times, I know we're breaking the law. He has no doubt. What does I know mean? It means he knows. I know we're breaking the law, and I don't care. What does I don't care mean? It means he doesn't care. I know we're breaking the law, and I don't care. There's no debate about this. He knows it's illegal, but he's still going to do it. This is not open for interpretation.
Well, when there's, when you do something over and over, and there's no controlling legal authority that sends you a citation in the mail. I mean, even it's funny because my wife went on a little jaunt with a friend of hers, and they ran a red light somewhere. Well, they got a picture in the mail featuring both of them sitting in the front seat of this car. There's no denying what happened here, So if they got something like that in the mail that says, hey, you did it again, so now you have to, send in $200, they would probably stop doing it. But since none of that is happening, I would consider that the trend will probably continue.
We shot videotape. It's one of the things we do. Did you know that? We shot videotape of the county commissioners of Sarah Walker in particular breaking state law. And I sent it off to the people that control such things up in Salem. And they said, yep, she's breaking the law. And I said, so what are you going to do about it? Well, we're in a bit of a debate here about whether we're going to enforce the law. You see, we're on our own. Everybody, we're on our own. They're not even going to obey their own laws. Not interested in doing it. So at the SOS meeting, here's Keith Eck and Cheryl Walker talking about county business illegally, right? And there's SOS, the people who are so much in favor of law enforcement, and they're all listening to him happy, and Jay Meredith is introducing him, and Cheryl Walker's there. See, you don't get to see the SOS meetings. We can tell you about them. Isn't this cool? Okay, so she's explaining to them the glories of a $2 imposed sales tax. No, imposed levy from the state. And what nice effect this would have on us in that, well, and this is Cheryl Walker explaining it to SOS. Why, you should really think about this because here's all the ins and outs. Now, fortunately, it looks very likely that this is going to evaporate, that it's not going to come forward. But there's Cheryl Walker right after this levy fails. She's out there beating the drum for a tax that's going to be imposed on us. Remember how she said, well, maybe if we don't do it, the state might force us to. Now here's Cheryl Walker supposedly promoting the idea.
Right, and something to note about this is not a levy. This is forever. You know,
right? Oh, so, it's not a 5-year levy, right? It would be forever. Right. That lovely. Okay, so that's followed up then by the meeting that just happened today. Today? Yeah, today, Monday, at the Grants Pass City Council. It's a workshop. Now, at a workshop, you can sit there with your hands folded, not up here, down in your lap, and you can listen very carefully to what they're saying, but you can't comment because they're not interested in a public comment during this type, of course. And so, and then they have a rule when you go to their Wednesday meeting that they can't answer you. They made the rule. Of course they could answer you. And sometimes they do, but the rule says that they made up that they can't answer you. Isn't that lovely? It's a great deal, isn't it? So anyway, for them. So they're talking about, as Jay Meredith. What do you know? Jay Meredith again. And up to this point, I've been fairly complimentary, whatever my compliments mean or don't mean. It doesn't matter. Big deal, blah, blah. Okay, but I've been fairly complimentary of the city council for being a lot more open and transparent than county government. For example, I don't think that they would give you a black map with black details, black on black on black on black. I don't think they would do that. They would give you one that you could actually read. So their note, I look over at my note, it said, here's the discussion item. Discussion about criminal justice system and jail services. Discussion about criminal justice system and jail services. A little bit generic, but you got a general idea, I suppose, of what's going to happen. So what was that presentation? It was Jay Meredith doing a PowerPoint presentation to the city council about why they should consider, are you ready for this? This is just as lovely as the logo. It's every bit as good as the expensive bus stops. Why the city council should investigate the idea of backing a sales tax on everything sold in Grants Pass. Now, this is
what are they going to use it for?
Maybe the jail or anything they want. Now, who was one of the first people that wanted to be on that task force?
Considering that they are,
I'll tell you in a minute.
Yeah.
There's a delay. Go ahead.
Considering that they're going to continue this water and sewer tax, which is already going to be given the money to the jail, why would they do this then to fund the jail? This has to be for some other purpose.
And how did they pay? I mean, no. How did they come to the conclusion that it was okay to up your water bill to pay for the jail? How did they, to what citizens did they go for a vote for that, Mike?
Mm, yeah, I don't remember that.
No, there was no vote. They just imposed it. They just said, this is the way that it is. That's what's going to happen. Ta-da! And I think it was unanimous, and they just decided to do it. Okay, isn't that lovely? But this time, they're going to have to come in front of the citizens. They're going to have to convince the citizens that this is a wonderful idea, a sales tax. We're
Mm.
going to talk about that sales tax in a minute, but I need to tell you who wants to be on this committee and who's behind this.
Mm.
Roy Lindsay. Do you remember Roy Lindsay, the guy that didn't like the vote that was taken at the Republican Central Committee and didn't like it so much he kept telling people, well, nobody here understands this. Of course they understood the vote. Roy Lindsay, who was such a pill, he couldn't stop talking about it days later. This is terrible. Oh, you can't do this. Okay, Roy Lindsay. Roy Lindsay, the guy that I told you about this thing that happened with the sheriff. You remember that story, okay? He called me a word. It starts with A and ends with whole. But okay, that's super religious Roy Lindsay. Anyway, and Mark Gatlin is, of course, he's completely behind this. I'm going to suggest that this idea of a sales tax be called, after Lindsay and Gatlin, the LGBT tax. LGBT. You know this acronym. Okay, it was Lindsay, Gatlin, bacon, and tomato. Okay, tax. LGBT.
You needed the other two letters. How can we
I
do
did.
this here?
Lindsay, Gatlin, bacon, and tomato. It's the LGBT tax. And so
Yes.
think of some of the repercussions about this. Okay.
Well, this is certainly, if they enact this, it certainly is not going to help the lesbian, gay, bi, and transgender people, with their decisions on whether or not to move to Grants Pass to
maybe
do
it'll keep them
business.
away. That's the purpose of it. No, but you think about it now. Okay, so you're not going to go to Medford to buy a burger. Okay, these guys don't eat burgers. Come on, they go to fancy schmancy eating establishments. It's going to affect them. But think about some of the other, like, do you think the Chamber of Commerce would be behind? Well, of course they're going to be behind it because they're for every tax that ever comes along. But you think about, okay, there are auto dealers in this town. Why would anybody buy a big ticket item, an automobile or some kind of RV van? Why would they buy it here when they go to Medford and get it? What's going to happen to
Yeah.
auto sales if there's a sales tax on everything sold in Grants Pass? Is this going to increase the amount of sales we have, or is it going to decrease them? What do you think?
Well, listen, this is just the tone deafness of government. They're only concerned about their own income, and they're not concerned about the health of the economy. Everybody knows you want to can an economy, raise taxes on it. They'll try to convince you over and over and over that raising taxes is good for everybody. No, it isn't. It doesn't work.
It's the same kind of
doesn't make
mentality
it
that comes up with this wimpy logo for whatever amount it was. It doesn't matter if it's more than $2.50. They're spending too much, and they could have ripped it off. It looks like they did. John Bowen, did you? From Grants Pass Weather, and so they spent. Some estimates are $200,000 plus. We don't know how much it is, but a lot of money on a wimpy logo, and all it says is "Go Rogue." Don't wear underwear, whatever it says. It's ridiculous, okay? And the same guys that came up with the same guys that came up with these expensive bus stops are now telling you, well, we really do need a sales tax. Okay, I'll tell you what the results of this is going to be. Got a hint for the people out in Cave Junction. You ought to get over there and get yourself some kind of auto dealers in Cave Junction right away. Because if the Grants Pass City Council decides people will just go to Cave Junction to buy their car, why would they buy it inside the city?
Yeah, that's right. No, it's a good idea.
What kind of thinking is this?
Well, listen, you know what? We are ceding our decision-making processes to these people, and this is what we get. Hello, why don't you start showing up at some of these city council meetings? Why don't you start showing up at the weekly business session? And then you might object, and maybe these people would second guess their own stupid decisions. You know, but
They are
listen.
doing this in a meeting where they don't even have to answer questions. You could come, okay, at
Yeah,
the very least, you can wait a year. I think I'll just sit and wait a year, Marge. Okay. But then there's 4 city councilors and a mayor. They're all coming up, and you can show them the door and say, you know what? You've come up with all these dopey ideas. Here's the door. Sounds like a good start to me. And take
yes,
your logo with
it
you,
does.
and take your
Right.
bus stops with you, and take your, why don't we just, there's nothing that could do the city more than just to double or triple the price of everything so that we can
Yes.
fund government so that they don't have to, and in addition to what they're already putting on your water bill, this is insanity.
Yeah.
It's insanity.
Yes. This reminds me of back in the 1800s, somebody had some sort of an illness, so they thought, oh, let's just bleed a quart of blood out of him. That'll help him out. That's what they're doing here. It's like, oh yes, we really need to take a little bit of everybody's money to make everything better for us. I don't know. Why don't you cut some of your own stuff?
A
Why don't you
sales
stop
tax.
spending $300,000 on? And listen. To be fair, it's not $300,000 for one logo. It's the promotional program, but it's inept. That's the point of it.
It's
We're not
trading an
trying to
OK
say that
logo.
yes,
It's
yeah,
trading an OK logo for a wimpy logo. And the
yeah.
only brave thing
No,
about it is you're telling people don't wear your underpants. That's the only thing. Go rogue, right? Live rogue, live
yes,
ruse, whatever it says.
yes, something like that.
Okay, in order to get that blood out of those people back in the 1800s, they had to go after it with a parrot's beak. That's all the way around back to
Is that what they used?
yeah,
Okay, yeah,
Taco
parrot's beak.
Bell. Okay,
I
so
did,
so
I did not know it. Hey, wait a minute. What is this rear view mirror? What is that?
oh,
Somebody keeps he's staring at me. I
that's a
wonder who
really
that
good
is.
question. When I looked at this, I thought, boy, that guy seems familiar. He seems so familiar. Who is that? I'm sure I've seen that before. Can you see him clearly? Okay.
Well, it looks like whoever it is wearing a badge, and they're going like this.
Okay. Now, just keep in mind that when you look in a rearview mirror, objects are closer than they appear. Funny thing about
Mm.
that movie, here's this Tyrannosaurus Rex coming up behind the Jeep, and he's biting at the rear tire. And you look out, that rearview mirror, and it says on there, funny line, objects are closer than they appear.
Yes.
Yeah, I still enjoyed the movie, but that doesn't appear on the left mirror. It only appears on the right mirror because
Oh
it's further
yeah, that's
away
right.
from you. Okay, so they had to
Uh,
bend reality just a little bit. Oh, the Tyrannosaurus wasn't bending reality. So who is this Tyrannosaurus that appears in our here's a hint. He bites and destroys the county charter on a daily basis. Who does it look like? It's Simon Hare, isn't it?
I
That's why he looks so familiar to me. Doesn't that look a little like Simon Hare?
guess it could be.
Yep.
Only Simon doesn't wear a badge. Well, he doesn't need any stinking badges. That's why.
That's right. Another movie reference. Oh, what movie was that, Mike?
What was it? Treasure Sierra Madre or
It
something?
was indeed, sir.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, now that we finished the news part of our show,
Yes. And revealed how old we really are.
oh no, we're just fans of popular culture. Okay, so this is
Yes.
this is the
1950s.
yes, this is the front page of the Daily Courier. No, this is the front page of our website, and we're showing you everything that you'd ever want to know ad nauseum about the miners and the stuff that they've gone through. And as you can see down here, here's Wally Hicks. Had a nice long talk with Wally, and here's the sheriff. Now, today, we got a chance to go down and talk with the sheriff about just a couple of things having to do with the vote that's coming up on Wednesday. The county commissioners are going to decide what they're going to do about the budget. Are they going to give the sheriff more money? Now, they've made it very clear they were not going to. And somehow, pressure is coming from, well, it's not coming from CAJO reports because they're not reporting it. It's not coming from Daily Courier reports because they're not reporting it. It's coming from some news source, and I just can't quite put my finger on it. Where are people hearing about this big battle? Because it's not in any media at all. It's not on TV. It's nowhere at all except for one little internet television show.
I'm thinking that if you called up Judy Aaron, she could tell you what that is.
There's only one place that's telling you. Okay, so well, you're totally wrong, Dale. Okay, you tell me where it's coming from. That pressure is coming from somewhere. Somebody's hearing about it. You think people are watching the budget meeting? Really? Watching the budget meeting? We already know what the county's numbers are for watching that kind of stuff. It's nothing. We'd be embarrassed if we went one day with such ratings as the county gets. They're getting it from us. Okay, we're giving it to them, buddy, every day. So we sat down with the sheriff. Now, one thing to keep in mind about the questions we're asking him is, here's an important word. Mike, what does patrol mean? Patrol.
Well, I mean, to me, when you say patrol and you're talking about a sheriff, that means a sheriff in a cruiser driving around.
Okay, so this money that comes from the road dollars, you were going to have to work on the sheriff after he gets the money. We hope that everyone's very kind, gentle, hugging and kissing our county commissioners, being very nice to them. I plan on doing that. Can you believe that? Being very nice to them until after they make their vote on Wednesday on whether to give this money, $1 million, $500,000, $1.95, whatever it is that they give to the sheriff. We hope that they'll make the right decision. Let's all encourage them to make the right decision. We'll show them love and affection, okay? For now. So we're going to need to work on the sheriff afterwards because we asked him what he plans on using this money for if he gets it. Now, keeping in mind, Mike's definition of patrol is the same as mine. Does patrol mean parking your car in front of a high school, getting out and sitting in with the secretaries and drinking coffee all day? This is not a patrol. Sitting at the jail and waiting for someone to call, hello, I have a problem. That's responding. That's not patrolling. People have said, SOS can tell you, our expensive polls, oh, that did them a lot of good. Why, they're telling us $2 is a good, no, well, they're not telling us $2 is a good idea, but they're telling us people want patrols. So a patrol is when you're driving around and you're hoping you're going to see crimes being committed and then you pounce. You don't wait at a high school for someone to say, I've lost my lunchbox. No. You're out on a patrol. So let's hear what the sheriff has to say. What would happen, Sheriff, if you did get this money?
I just have one last question.
Uh-oh.
No, you'll like this question.
All right.
What would you do if you had this roads fund money? What immediately would you do? What's the plan?
It's a great question, and I thought about that. As a matter of fact, I shared that plan with Commissioner Hare today. All along, I've spoken about trying to get resident deputies, and all along I've spoken about trying to get deputies positioned in our schools as well, primarily the high schools. And although I haven't really dotted it, how I'd make that happen, that's where I would like to see the money go. I think the communication from the citizens can be much improved and enhanced by having a member of our law enforcement organization, their law enforcement organization, in their communities, going to their functions, going to their individual parades where they recognize them and know them and feel freely to speak to them. So I think that's where I would like to go if I could get some of those monies. I would like to put the resident deputies out there, however, in the schools, but. However, what you have to understand too is the hard part of that is the time to get up and running. That's the difficulty because ideally it would be nice to have lateral officers, deputies, ideally, because
those would be deputies that have already been trained and have
already
offered
been
to come back.
already been through field training, not necessarily from here, but
right.
somewhere else.
We hear that they do exist.
They do exist, but they're very difficult to come to a place like this because who wants to come to a place where nothing's sustainable? There's no guarantee that in over 2 years they're going to have a job.
Yeah.
So
of course, if you don't have a job right now, though, that makes that decision a little easier.
It does. Yeah. It does. But you have to understand too. I'm giving a tremendous. I have to. There's a tremendous amount of time that has to be spent in making sure you're picking the right person too. You can't have a person that you can't trust in law enforcement going around doing things, carrying a badge and a gun, because there's a tremendous amount of power in that regard. And so it's very important that I hire the right person. And we do it right and go through the process right. So that's the difficulty I have with that plan just up front. I'll just let you know, is how fast it would take me to get up and running. If I have to hire a new officer, a new deputy, it could be upwards of a year almost to get that type of a situation up and running. And that's
could they though be involved in some of the resident officer duties before they have the rest of before they're fully trained? Could they, like this job of going into the high schools and stuff, couldn't some of that be done without the full on training being completed? No. Okay.
Unfortunately, no. There's not, because there's huge liability there in cutting someone loose before they're properly trained or certified. So it's a process.
But if this person's a lateral person, then they would only need whatever supplemental training. Somebody like that could probably be deployed immediately.
Very, very soon. It's just like a person like that, I might be able to get out in maybe 2 or 3 months. You go through you go through the hiring process. If you're a new deputy, you're going to go through the academy. Then you're going to go through a field training and evaluation program, and that's at the end of it. Academy's 4 months. Field training evaluation program could be 3 or 4, unless it's a lateral. Maybe I can train that person in 2. They understand everything else. You don't have to spend the time teaching them how to be a police officer. So that's the variable there, and that's the cold hard truth of it. That's the hard part that's hard for me to swallow, is taking monies that's for 2 years, knowing that potentially I'm not going to have anything to show for it for a year. That's where I struggle, because I'm all about trying to get the county the best return on investment, and but law enforcement's different like that. It's not like we're not an organization or a job where you can say you worked at Burger King one day and you can just swap right over to McDonald's the next day, and you can be trained in a day or half a day.
Yes.
So it's different than that.
But there's a lot of money in road funds, and it is replenished by the state. So it's not as if they couldn't say now or later, you know what, we've evaluated this is so helpful, we're going to do it for another year or another year.
It's altogether possible.
Right.
But the will has to be there.
Right. Exactly. After taking the road funds, one of the first things that I would do personally is begin lobbying for the extension of this beyond January of 2016, because that's the cutoff.
For the road funds being able to be used by road deputies.
Right. Now, the speculation that I heard through the grapevine is that they were going to take $1 million, split that over 2 years.
Right.
In other words, if they take that money out of the road funds now, then it's up to them to spread it out over whatever period of time they want. They just have to take it out before that time. So I would advocate for the maximum, certainly.
Maybe even publicly, Sheriff.
Yes.
Get you, Dale.
Yes, and then and then it can be spread out over however many years. And if you watch some of the videos that we put up on that, what Margaret Goodwin says is that there's $8 million there, and that it's the largest surplus, if you will, they may want to call it something different, of any that has ever been in that fund. And that even if you took out $1 million, it would still be higher than it had been in any time in the last 5 years. So they would still have contingency funds after their normal budget, so keep flogging that horse.
So before you comment, Mike, just a little quick thing here. The county commissioners have said many times that what you just saw is not news of any kind. Why, it's not even media of any kind. And sometimes people will say, you two guys, you're just babbling. You're not making any sense. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not following through with anything. You have no idea what's happening in this county. There are people who say that. So if you have that opinion, why are you watching this show? No, my point is, we are going to try to bring you the dang news as much as we possibly can, and we talk with the newsmakers. So enough of that. Mike, what do you think about what he was saying there, bud?
Well, and you had brought up that, well, I don't know about the idea of putting these deputies in the schools. I'm not sure that actually can even be done with this money, because it seemed to me that it was targeted. In other words, you could take it out of Public Works and put it in the Sheriff's Department if it was used for rural patrol. That's kind of what I got, and I may not be 100% on that.
This is what the commissioner's saying. It's road funds.
Yeah.
It's for a road patrol. It's not for a parking lot patrol. It's not for a hall monitor at a school. It's for road patrols.
Right, and I think that's the thing, is that it has to be tied to the roads somehow. That's how you can rationalize pulling it out of Public Works road dollars and sending it to the sheriff for that purpose. So, yeah, it would be a neat accounting trick to have him, putting the deputies in the schools with that money. So I'm not sure that there may be some rearranging there before.
Is there somebody somewhere that's saying? Somebody somewhere that's saying, "Oh, our most desperate need is officer friendly at the high school." Where's this coming from? I mean, not it's for the children. Okay, I get that, but this is not what people in Cave Junction. This is not what people in Merlin. This is not what people out in the county are saying we desperately need. They want road patrols, and not somebody responding to a call. And we'll see you in half an hour. Road patrols, right? Road dollars, right?
Yeah, I guess, but listen. These are the minutia that's going to have to be dealt with after we actually have some money that has moved from Public Works over to the sheriff. That's
absolutely agreed.
An academic process until then.
Academic high school, yeah, academic process, totally understandable, and even yes. Simon here in the rearview mirror, I think, would potentially agree with that. So I'm encouraging people to say good things to the commissioners. Yeah, I am. And I hope that they will make the right decision on this. And then once the sheriff has the money, he may be a little bit curtailed by this. Perhaps it's not going to be about officer friendly, sitting and drinking a cup of coffee with it. Oh, he does much more than that. Yeah. Okay. So patrol people out there, watching over the county with the extra money that you're getting from this renewable resource. It's renewable, okay? Once it grows up, you chop it down and another one grows up. Okay, that's our history. And one can hope that he'll end up being funded in a way that we've always asked for. And the best part of all, it keeps it out of the hands of the commissioners. Win-win.